How does trauma impact you physically, mentally, and emotionally? Mended Light. All right, so let's talk about the body's natural response to trauma, because it's there for a reason, even if it's not especially pleasant. It's there to keep you safe.
And help you to survive, even at the cost of being actively involved in your own life. So we're gonna start this video right off the bat with a quote from Dr. Bessel van der Kolk, the author of the book, The Body Keeps the Score.
And he says, after trauma, the world is experienced with a different nervous system. The survivor's energy now becomes focused on suppressing inner chaos at the expense of spontaneous involvement in their life. These attempts to maintain control over unbearable physiological reactions can result in a whole range of physical symptoms, including fibromyalgia, chronic fatigue, and other autoimmune diseases. This explains why it is critical for trauma treatment to engage the entire person, body, mind, and brain.
So in the last video, we talked about what trauma is.
Yeah.
And how PTSD manifests, right? And the basic definition of you thought your world was safe, something happened, and it's no longer safe. Or if you experienced trauma in childhood and you have PTSD, you never had safety.
Right.
And so healing is always a return to feeling safe and secure, or creating safety and security for the first time if you never had it. And so for real healing and for real change to take place, the body has to learn that the danger has passed. The trauma of whatever happened has passed, and to live in the present. And when we experience a trigger and have symptoms of PTSD, we are responding to what is happening in the moment and every other incident that is tied to that moment, right?
Big lead up.
And that's why the response in the moment is so strong, because you're not responding to what's just in the moment. You're responding to what's happening in the moment and every other thing that's tied to it, which is a lot.
Which is a lot. And traumatized people keep secreting large amounts of stress hormones long after the original danger has passed. The sympathetic nervous system controls the body's response to a perceived threat and is responsible for the fight, flight, or freeze response.
So what's supposed to happen is the sympathetic nervous system, or SNS for short, should provide a lightning fast response to threat, right? Like a car in front of you, the brake lights, they slam on their brakes, you slam on your brakes. Like, that's necessary and needed. What is intended to happen is for the sympathetic nervous system to respond with that lightning fast reaction, and then to go back to a place of equilibrium. And what happens for people who've experienced trauma or who are experiencing PTSD, you don't go back to that place of equilibrium, which is known as the parasympathetic nervous system, right? And so the different techniques we talk about, like the breathing, the EFT tapping, the reason those are so powerful, it helps us switch from the fight or flight response back to what's known as the rest and digest, or the parasympathetic, or the PNS, right?
For individuals who experience PTSD, the stress hormone actually fails at this balancing act. The fight, flight, or freeze signals continue after the danger's over, and it does not return to normal. Instead of that, the continued secretion of stress hormones is expressed as agitation and panic, and in the long term, wreaks havoc on their health.
So when your body goes back into the parasympathetic or the PNS or the rest and digest, that's when the body recovers from the stress that was put on it during the sympathetic nervous system response, right? But if you don't ever go back to that rest and digest place, your body can't recover, it can't heal, and you're constantly in a hypervigilant state.
Now let's talk about triggers. Triggers can be internal or external, including smells, sights, sounds, and emotions that remind the person of past trauma in some way. When a person with PTSD experiences being triggered like this, it can lead to overwhelming emotions like sadness, anxiety, panic, and flashbacks. And vivid memories could appear without warning that can cause you to lose track of where you are or to relive a trauma.
When something reminds a traumatized person of the past, the right brain reacts as if the traumatic event was happening right then, in that moment. And so when you experience a trigger, you're not only responding to what's happening in the moment, but to every other experience that is emotionally tied to that trigger. And fighting those unseen dangers is exhausting. and leaves the individual fatigued, depressed, weary. And that's why the individual who experienced the trauma and is experiencing the PTSD doesn't relate to what's going on around them, because for them, the trauma is happening right then.
Right.
For everyone else, nothing is happening.
Now, we've already said this, but it's worth repeating that your energy after trauma is now focused on suppressing inner chaos at the expense of spontaneous involvement in your life. These attempts to maintain control over unbearable stress caused when you go into a state of fight, flight, or freeze can cause a whole range of physical symptoms. This explains why it is critical for trauma treatment to engage the entire person, heart, mind, and body.
So if you've ever felt like you're crazy, or you're questioning what's wrong with you, or wondering why you just can't get over it and move on, it's because your brain has literally been rewired by the trauma and the subsequent PTSD. Your brain was protecting you in the moment to keep you safe. Recognize that if you are now in a place of safety and security, these coping mechanisms are no longer keeping you safe, they are keeping you stuck. And we have tons of resources on this channel to support you in moving from that place of stuck to that place of true safety. You're going to want to show yourself love and compassion, appreciation and understanding for all the amazing ways that you have handled and dealt with the trauma up until this point, even though it doesn't feel like it. You're still here and you're still trying, and that is commendable. And you are worthy of love and safety and understanding.
What have been your big takeaway points from this video? What have you learned? And what would you share about your experience that could be helpful for our community members? Let us know in the comments below. Now, we've got another video for you to check out. It takes a community to heal from trauma, talking about how to build a network of support and love for yourself. And that link is going to show up somewhere here on screen and right here in the description below. Until next time, folks, keep shining.
We need your light.